Sofia stood at the altar in her ivory gown, the lace veil cascading down her back like a waterfall of broken promises. 200 guests held their breath as the priest asked the question that would change everything. Her eyes locked with Gabriel's, and in that crystalline moment, she saw something flicker across his face. Was it guilt, fear, or perhaps relief that this charade would finally end? Her lips parted, and the word that emerged wasn't the one anyone expected. But to understand why Sofia's answer would shatter hearts, ruin friendships, and expose secrets that had been festering in the shadows for months, we need to go back. Back to when she believed in fairy tales. Back to when her best friend Isabella's smile didn't feel like a knife against her spine. Back to 3 months before this moment, when Sofia's world was still intact, and she had no idea that the two people she loved most were architects of her devastation. 3 months earlier, Sofia had been floating through life on a cloud of wedding preparations and romantic illusions. She and Gabriel had been together for 4 years, and their engagement had felt like the natural culmination of a love story everyone envied. Gabriel was charming, successful, and attentive, or so she thought. He worked in finance, often putting in long hours at the office, which Sofia understood and supported. She had her own career as a graphic designer, working from home most days, which gave her flexibility to handle the endless details of wedding planning. Isabella had been Sofia's best friend since college. Stunning in a way that turned heads wherever she went, with long dark hair, emerald eyes, and a figure that made strangers do double takes, Isabella had always been the beautiful one in their friendship. Sofia had never minded. She loved Isabella fiercely, trusted her completely, and never felt threatened by her friend's beauty because their bond seemed unbreakable. Isabella was Sofia's maid of honor, naturally, and had been instrumental in helping plan every detail of the wedding, from choosing the venue to selecting the flowers to organizing the bachelorette party. The three of them, Sofia, Gabriel, and Isabella, often spent time together. Double dates when Isabella had a boyfriend, which wasn't frequent because she claimed to be too busy with her career in marketing to settle down, dinners at each other's apartments, weekend trips to the beach. Gabriel and Isabella got along well, which Sofia thought was wonderful. What could be better than your fiancé and best friend being friends too? The first crack in Sofia's perfect world appeared on a Tuesday afternoon in late June. She had been working on a design project for a major client, hunched over her laptop at the kitchen table, when her phone buzzed with a text notification. She glanced at it absently, expecting a message from Gabriel, or perhaps her mother asking about wedding invitation details. Instead, it was from a number she didn't recognize. "You deserve to know the truth about Gabriel," the message read. "Check his phone. Look at his messages with Isabella." Sofia's heart performed an uncomfortable skip. She stared at the words, reading them again and again, trying to make sense of them. A wrong number, a cruel prank. But something about the message felt specific, targeted, real. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed back, "Who is this?" No response came. She set the phone down, telling herself it was nothing, some jealous person trying to stir up trouble before her wedding. It happened, didn't it? People got weird about other people's happiness. But the seed of doubt, once planted, began to grow roots that wound themselves around her thoughts. She found herself staring at her phone, at that message, unable to focus on her work. Check his phone? She'd never done that, never felt the need to. They trusted each other, didn't they? When Gabriel came home that evening, Sofia was determined to act normal. He kissed her cheek, loosened his tie, and poured himself a glass of wine. They made dinner together, pasta with the sauce he loved, and talked about their days. His seemed unremarkable, meetings, emails, the usual corporate tedium. He asked about her design project, listened attentively, made all the right supportive comments. Everything was normal, everything was fine, except it wasn't, because Sofia couldn't stop thinking about that message. After dinner, Gabriel went to take a shower. His phone sat on the kitchen counter, face down, charging. Sofia stood at the sink, washing dishes, acutely aware of the device just feet away. She had never been the type to snoop. Privacy was important. Trust was sacred. But the message had burrowed into her brain like a parasite, whispering poisonous possibilities. What if it was true? What if there was nothing to find, and she was about to violate his privacy over nothing? What if there was something to find, and she didn't look? Her hands moved without conscious decision. One moment she was drying a plate, the next she was picking up his phone. She knew his passcode. They'd never hidden such things from each other. The phone unlocked with a soft click. She opened his messages, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. There were the usual suspects: his parents, his brother, work colleagues, friends from college. And there, near the top of the list because they'd messaged recently, was Isabella's name. Sofia's finger hovered over it. This was the moment. She could put the phone down, forget the anonymous message, choose trust over suspicion. Or she could open the conversation and see whatever was there to see. She tapped Isabella's name. The messages loaded, and Sofia's world tilted on its axis. The most recent exchange was from earlier that day. Gabriel, can't wait to see you tomorrow. I've been thinking about you all day. Isabella, me too. This is getting harder to hide. I hate lying to her. Gabriel, I know, but we need to be careful. Just a few more months until the wedding is over, then we can figure things out. Isabella, what do you mean figure things out? You're still going through with it? Gabriel, we've talked about this. I can't call it off now. Too many people involved, too much money spent. We'll deal with it after. Isabella, I don't know if I can keep doing this, Gabriel. Every time I look at Sofia, I feel sick. Gabriel, please, Bella, I need you. We'll work it out, I promise. Sofia read the messages 3 times, each word sinking deeper into her chest like stones. The shower was still running. Gabriel would be out any minute. With shaking hands, she scrolled up through their conversation history. The messages went back months, flirtatious at first, then increasingly intimate. References to meetings, to secret encounters, to feelings that shouldn't exist between her fiancé and her best friend. Last night was incredible, Gabriel had written 6 weeks ago. I can't stop thinking about your hands on me, Isabella had replied. There were no explicit photos, nothing overtly sexual in the messages, but the emotional and physical affair was undeniable. They'd been careful with their words, perhaps paranoid about being discovered, but the meaning was crystal clear. Gabriel and Isabella were involved, had been for months, and they were planning to continue whatever this was even after the wedding. The shower stopped. Sofia heard the bathroom door open. Panic flooded through her. She closed the messages, put the phone back exactly where it had been, and returned to the sink on legs that felt like they might collapse beneath her. Gabriel emerged in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair damp, smiling at her with that easy, affectionate smile she'd loved for 4 years. Want to watch something? He asked, completely oblivious to the fact that her entire world had just shattered. Sure, Sofia heard herself say, her voice sounding remarkably steady, considering she felt like she was dying inside. They settled on the couch, Gabriel's arm around her shoulders, and started an episode of some show she couldn't focus on. Her mind was racing, trying to process, trying to understand. How long had this been going on? When had it started? Had there been signs she'd missed? Every memory of the 3 of them together was now tainted, recontextualized through this new, horrible lens. Every time Isabella had helped with wedding planning, had she been thinking about Gabriel? Every time Gabriel had kissed Sofia goodbye, had he been on his way to see Isabella? And who had sent that message? Who else knew? Sofia made it through the evening on autopilot. When they went to bed, Gabriel reached for her, and she made an excuse about being tired, about her stomach feeling off. He kissed her forehead and rolled over, asleep within minutes, like he didn't have a care in the world, like he wasn't destroying her. She lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, tears sliding silently down her temples into her hair. By morning, Sofia had made several decisions. First, she wasn't going to confront them immediately. She needed more information, needed to understand the full scope of what was happening. Second, she was going to continue acting normal, because if they suspected she knew, they might cover their tracks better. Third, she was going to find out who had sent her that message, because that person might have more information. She texted the unknown number again. "I saw the messages." "Who are you? What else do you know?" This time, a response came within minutes. "Someone who cares about you more than they do. I can help you find out everything. Meet me at the coffee shop on Vine Street today at 2 p.m. I'll be wearing a red scarf." Sofia's hands trembled as she typed, "How do I know this isn't some kind of trap?" "You don't. But what do you have to lose at this point? You deserve the whole truth, Sofia." The fact that this person knew her name should have been more alarming, but Sofia was past alarm. She was in survival mode now, and survival meant gathering intelligence. At 1:55 p.m., Sofia walked into the coffee shop on Vine Street, her eyes scanning for a red scarf. She spotted it immediately, a woman sitting alone at a corner table, mid-30s, with short blonde hair and an anxious expression. As Sofia approached, the woman looked up, and something flickered across her face. Recognition, relief. "Sofia," the woman said quietly. "Yes, who are you?" "My name is Rachel. God, this is harder than I thought it would be." Rachel gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Please, sit." Sofia sat, her body rigid with tension. "How do you know about Gabriel and Isabella?" Rachel took a deep breath, her fingers wrapped tightly around her coffee cup. "Because Isabella isn't the first. Gabriel has a pattern. He's done this before." The words hit Sofia like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I was you 3 years ago. I was engaged to Gabriel. We were planning our wedding, and he was having an affair with my maid of honor." Rachel's eyes were sad, but steady. "I found out 2 weeks before the wedding. I called it off, obviously, but by then it was too late. I was already broken." Sofia felt like she couldn't breathe. 3 years ago? But Gabriel and I have been together for 4 years. "He overlapped us," Rachel said flatly. "Started dating you while we were still together. I didn't know about you until after everything fell apart and I started piecing together his timeline. That's when I realized he's a serial cheater who specifically targets women in his life, along with their friends. It's some kind of sick game to him." "I don't understand. Why didn't you warn me? Why wait until now?" Rachel's expression crumpled slightly. "I tried to move on, to forget about him. I went to therapy, rebuilt my life, but a few months ago I saw your engagement announcement in the paper. He still has mutual friends with people I know, and it made the rounds. I saw your picture, read about the upcoming wedding, and I couldn't let him do this to someone else. I hired a private investigator to confirm he was up to his old tricks. That's how I found out about Isabella." "A private investigator?" Sofia's mind was reeling. Rachel pulled out her phone and opened a photo album. "I have proof. Photos, timestamps, everything. The investigator followed them for 3 weeks. She slid the phone across the table. Sofia looked down at the screen and felt her stomach drop. Photo after photo of Gabriel and Isabella, entering a hotel together, holding hands in a restaurant in a different city, kissing in Gabriel's car, Isabella leaving Gabriel's office building late at night. The evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable. "They're careful," Rachel continued, "but not careful enough. They avoid places where people might recognize them, but they've been seeing each other at least twice a week for the past 4 months. The investigator believes it started even earlier than that. based on some credit card receipts he was able to access. Credit card receipts! Sofia felt like she'd fallen into some kind of spy thriller. Gabriel's not as smart as he thinks he is. He used his credit card at restaurants and hotels, probably thinking you'd never check, or that he could explain them away as business expenses. The investigator has documentation of all of it. Sofia scrolled through the photos, each one a fresh wound. In some of them, Isabella was wearing jewelry Sofia had helped her pick out. In one, Gabriel was wearing the watch Sofia had given him for his last birthday. The casual intimacy between them in the photos was undeniable. These weren't two people having a meaningless fling. They looked like a couple. "Why?" Sofia whispered. "Why would they do this?" "That's a question I spent a year in therapy trying to answer," Rachel said gently. "The best explanation I got was that some people are broken in ways that make them need validation from multiple sources. Gabriel likes the stability and respectability of a committed relationship and a wedding, but he also craves the excitement of something forbidden. And Isabella—" Rachel paused. "I don't know Isabella, but I knew my former maid of honor. Some people can't resist the challenge of taking something that belongs to someone else. It makes them feel powerful." "I trusted her completely," Sofia said, tears finally spilling over. "She's been my best friend for years. We've been through everything together." "I know. I'm so sorry." Rachel reached across the table and squeezed Sofia's hand. "But you need to decide what you're going to do now. Are you going to confront them? Call off the wedding?" Sofia wiped her eyes, a strange calm settling over her. "I don't know yet, but I'm not going to let them know I know. Not yet." Rachel looked surprised. "Why not?" "Because the wedding is in 3 months. 3 months where they think they're getting away with it. 3 months where I can plan my response." Sofia met Rachel's eyes, and something hard and determined glimmered there. "If I'm going down, I'm not going down alone. And I'm not going down quietly." A small smile crossed Rachel's face. "What do you need from me?" "Everything your investigator found. Every photo, every receipt, every piece of evidence. And I need you to keep watching them. Can you do that?" "Absolutely," Rachel said. "It would be my pleasure." Over the next 3 months, Sofia became someone she didn't recognize, a woman capable of deception, of planning, of wearing a mask so convincing that no one suspected the rage and heartbreak churning beneath. She continued wedding preparations with a smile. She attended dress fittings and taste-tested cakes. She laughed at Isabella's jokes during bridesmaid events and kissed Gabriel goodnight every evening. Meanwhile, Rachel's investigator continued to document the affair. The evidence accumulated like damning pages in a book of betrayal. Gabriel and Isabella were growing bolder, perhaps confident that they'd gotten away with it for so long that they'd continue to get away with it forever. They met more frequently. The investigator captured them, checking into hotels, going away for weekend trips supposedly for work conferences and girls' weekends with other friends. Sofia learned that Isabella had told her other friends she was dating someone new but wanted to keep it private. Those friends, unaware of the truth, had been happy for her, covering for her when needed. Gabriel had told his groomsmen that work was stressful and he needed occasional guy time to decompress, which they'd accepted without question. The web of lies was intricate and well-maintained, almost impressive in its construction. Sofia also made her own preparations. She consulted with a lawyer about what would happen to deposits and contracts if the wedding was called off. She documented every cent Gabriel had spent on the affair, dinners, hotels, gifts, all money that should have gone toward their shared future. She created a detailed timeline of the betrayal, cross-referencing it with her own memories to identify every lie she'd been told. And she planned the confrontation. 2 weeks before the wedding, Sofia's mother asked if she was okay. "You seem distant, sweetheart," her mother said over lunch. "Are you getting cold feet?" No cold feet, Sofia assured her. Just a lot on my mind with work and the wedding. You and Gabriel are going to be so happy, her mother said warmly. He's such a good man. Sofia smiled and said nothing. 1 week before the wedding, at the rehearsal dinner, Sofia sat at a table surrounded by everyone she loved, except she didn't love all of them anymore, did she? Gabriel sat to her right, his hand resting on her thigh, playing the devoted fiancé. Isabella sat across from them, radiant in a blue dress, making everyone laugh with a story about their college days. I'm so lucky to have you both, Sofia said, raising her glass. My amazing fiancé and my incredible best friend. I honestly don't know what I'd do without either of you. Gabriel squeezed her hand. Isabella's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I mean it, Sofia continued, her voice clear and steady. You two are the most important people in my world. I trust you with my life. She saw something flicker across Isabella's face. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Gabriel just smiled and kissed her temple. To trust, Sofia said, and everyone raised their glasses. The night before the wedding, Sofia lay in bed alone. She and Gabriel were following tradition by not seeing each other until the ceremony. He was staying at a hotel with his groomsmen. According to the investigator, Isabella had gone to that hotel. According to the investigator, she was in Gabriel's room right now. Sofia looked at the photos on her phone, the latest ones, time-stamped just 30 minutes ago. Gabriel and Isabella together the night before his wedding. She felt surprisingly calm. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. Sofia went through all the motions, hair and makeup, the dress that cost more than her car, photos with her bridesmaids, including Isabella, who looked especially beautiful and especially nervous. Are you okay? Sofia asked Isabella privately when they had a moment alone. You seem anxious. Isabella's eyes widened. I'm fine, just, want everything to be perfect for you. You've been such an amazing friend through all of this, Sofia said softly. I want you to know that. Whatever happens, I want you to know that I saw you. I saw exactly who you are. Something in Sofia's tone must have struck a chord because Isabella went pale. Sofia, It's time, the wedding coordinator interrupted. Everyone to their places. The ceremony was beautiful. The venue was decorated exactly as Sofia had envisioned. White roses and candles everywhere. String quartet playing softly. 200 guests in their finest clothes gathered to witness what they thought would be a joyful union. Sofia's father walked her down the aisle. Gabriel stood at the altar in his tuxedo, looking nervous and excited and handsome. The groomsmen stood in a line. The bridesmaids, including Isabella, stood opposite them. Everything was perfect. The priest began the ceremony. The standard words about love and commitment, about choosing your partner every day, about honesty and faithfulness. Sofia felt strangely detached, like she was watching herself from outside her body. Then came the vows. Gabriel went first, his voice emotional as he talked about how Sofia was the love of his life, his best friend, his future. Several people in the audience were crying. Isabella was staring at the floor. Sofia's turn. She looked at Gabriel and spoke from memory. I vow to trust you completely and to honor the trust you place in me. I vow to be faithful to you in thought and deed. I vow to be honest with you always, even when the truth is difficult, and I vow that if you ever betray these promises, I will have the strength to walk away. A few people laughed nervously at that last part, thinking it was a joke. Gabriel's smile faltered slightly. Then came the moment, the question everyone was waiting for. Do you, Gabriel, take Sofia to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do, Gabriel said firmly. And do you, Sofia, take Gabriel to be your lawfully wedded husband? The chapel was absolutely silent, 200 people holding their breath. Gabriel looking at her with those eyes she'd once loved. Isabella, standing frozen among the bridesmaids, her face the color of chalk. Sofia looked at Gabriel, really looked at him, and said no. The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. "I do not take this man as my husband," Sofia continued, her voice steady and clear, "because he's been having an affair with my maid of honor for the past 6 months. The chapel erupted. Gasps, shocked exclamations, people turning to each other in disbelief. Gabriel's face went from confused to horrified. Isabella made a sound like a wounded animal. "Sofia, what are you—" Gabriel started. "Don't!" Sofia cut him off. She turned to face the audience. "I'm sorry to everyone who came here today expecting a wedding. I'm sorry for the wasted time and money, but I'm not sorry for stopping this farce before it went any further." She reached into her bouquet, she'd hidden it there that morning, and pulled out a USB drive. On this drive is 6 months of evidence: photos, text messages, credit card receipts, investigator reports. Gabriel and Isabella have been betraying me since before we even chose this venue. They plan to continue after the wedding. "This is insane." Gabriel finally found his voice. "Sofia, you're having some kind of breakdown." "Room 412 at the Marriott," Sofia said, looking directly at him. "That's where you two were last night, the night before our wedding. Should I describe what the investigators' photos show, or would you like to confess now and save everyone the details?" Gabriel's face crumbled. Isabella was crying, her hands over her face. "Why?" Sofia asked them both, her composure finally cracking. "Why couldn't you just leave me alone? If you wanted each other, you could have had each other. Why drag me through this?" "I'm sorry," Isabella sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Sofia. I never meant—" "You never meant to get caught," Sofia corrected. "There's a difference." Gabriel tried to approach her, but Sofia stepped back. "I loved you," she said to him. "I was going to build a life with you. And you threw it away for what? Some excitement, the thrill of sneaking around." "It wasn't like that," Gabriel said weakly. "Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Explain it to everyone here." Sofia gestured to the audience, where Gabriel's parents sat looking devastated, where her own parents were holding each other, where friends and family sat in various states of shock. Gabriel said nothing. What could he say? Sofia turned to Isabella. "You stood by my side through everything. You helped me plan this day. You listened to me talk about how happy I was, and the entire time you were sleeping with my fiancé." "I loved him," Isabella said desperately. "I didn't want to, but I fell in love with him." "Then you should have told me," Sofia said, her voice breaking. "You should have told me before I bought this dress, before I sent out invitations, before I stood here in front of everyone I know. You should have given me that much respect." "I'm sorry," Isabella whispered again, but it sounded hollow. Sofia took off her veil and dropped it on the floor. She looked out at the audience one last time. "There won't be a reception, but the food and drinks are paid for, so please stay and enjoy them. Consider it my thanks for being willing to celebrate what you thought was going to be the happiest day of my life." She started to walk back down the aisle, her head held high despite the tears streaming down her face. As she passed Rachel, who had been seated near the back, their eyes met. Rachel nodded slightly, a gesture of understanding and solidarity. Sofia made it halfway down the aisle before her father caught up to her. He didn't say anything, just wrapped his arm around her shoulders and walked with her out of the chapel into the bright afternoon sun. Behind them, chaos erupted. Voices raised in anger and confusion. Someone shouted at Gabriel. Someone else was crying. But Sofia didn't look back. She had meant what she said in her vows. She had the strength to walk away. The aftermath was brutal in its own way. The story spread quickly through social media and their social circle. Sofia became simultaneously a figure of sympathy and a source of gossip. Some people praised her courage, others questioned why she'd waited until the ceremony to call it off, why she'd put everyone through that scene. Sophia's answer, when anyone asked, was simple. Because they put me through 6 months of lies. One uncomfortable afternoon seemed fair. Gabriel tried to contact her multiple times, calls, texts, emails, even showing up at her apartment. She blocked him on everything and threatened a restraining order if he didn't stop. He eventually gave up, or at least stopped trying to reach her directly. Isabella sent a long letter of apology that Sofia read once and then burned. There was nothing Isabella could say that would make any of it better. Sofia threw herself into therapy and work. She moved to a new apartment, cut ties with mutual friends who seemed sympathetic to Gabriel or Isabella, and slowly, painfully, began to rebuild herself. 3 months after the non-wedding, Rachel invited Sofia to lunch. They'd become friends in an odd way, bonded by their shared experience of Gabriel's betrayal. "How are you doing?" Rachel asked. "Better," Sofia said, and it was mostly true. "Some days are harder than others, but I'm getting there." "Good." Rachel paused, then said carefully, "I want to show you something, but I'm not sure if you're ready." "Show me what?" Rachel pulled out her phone and showed Sofia a social media post. It was from Gabriel, dated 2 weeks ago. A photo of him with a new woman, someone Sofia didn't recognize. The caption read, "Starting a new chapter with this amazing woman." Sofia stared at the post, waiting for the pain to hit, but instead she just felt tired. Who is she? Her name is Laura. She works at his office. According to mutual acquaintances, they've been dating for about a month. "A month," Sofia repeated. "It's only been 3 months since the wedding." "He doesn't waste time," Rachel said dryly. Sofia looked at the woman in the photo. She looked happy, excited, in love. She had no idea what she was getting into. "Should we warn her?" Sofia asked. "We could," Rachel said, "but would she believe us? Would you have believed me if I'd tried to warn you 3 years ago?" Sofia thought about it. "Probably not. I would have thought you were a jealous ex making trouble." "Exactly. Some lessons people have to learn themselves." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sofia said, "I don't hate him anymore." Rachel looked surprised. "Really?" "I don't hate him, and I don't hate Isabella. I'm angry and I'm hurt, but hate requires too much energy. I'm choosing to use my energy on rebuilding instead." Sofia took a sip of her coffee. "They didn't break me. They tried, but they didn't succeed." "You're stronger than I was," Rachel said admiringly. "I learned from you," Sofia said simply. "You survived this and came out the other side. You even tried to help someone else avoid your pain. That's not weakness. That's strength." "We're both strong," Rachel said. "We just had to learn it the hard way." 6 months after the non-wedding, Sofia was in a surprisingly good place. Her design business was thriving. The drama had actually brought her some attention, and several new clients had sought her out. She'd reconnected with old friends she'd lost touch with during her relationship with Gabriel. She'd even started dating someone new, a kind and honest man named Marcus, who knew her history and didn't judge her for it. One evening, she got a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Sofia," a female voice said, "this is Laura. I think we need to talk." Sofia's heart sank. She knew exactly who Laura was and why she was calling. They met at a coffee shop the next day. Laura looked tired and defeated, her eyes red from crying. "He cheated on me," Laura said without preamble, "with his co-worker. I found text messages on his phone." "I'm sorry," Sofia said and meant it. "I didn't believe it when people tried to tell me about you and your wedding," Laura continued. "I thought they were exaggerating, or that you must have been crazy or paranoid. But you weren't, were you? You knew exactly what he was." "I knew," Sofia confirmed. "And I'm sorry you had to learn it too." "Why do people like him exist?" Laura asked, tears spilling over. "Why do they hurt people like this?" "I don't know," Sofia said honestly. "I've spent months trying to understand it, and I still don't have a good answer. Some people are just broken in ways that make them hurt others. What do I do now? You leave, Sofia said firmly. You walk away and you don't look back. You grieve, you heal, and you become stronger. And eventually you use what you learn to help protect yourself and maybe others too. Laura wiped her eyes. How long does it take to stop hurting? I'll let you know when I get there, Sofia said with a sad smile. But it gets easier. I promise it gets easier. They talked for over an hour. Sofia shared her story in full, including the parts she usually kept private. The sleepless nights, the therapy sessions, the moments of crushing doubt when she wondered if she'd made the right choice, saying no at the altar. I admire what you did, Laura said finally. I don't think I could have stood up there and done that. You'd be surprised what you're capable of when you have to be, Sofia said. I didn't think I could either, until I did it. As they parted ways, Laura hugged Sofia tightly. Thank you for talking to me, for not saying, I told you so. We're in the same club now, Sofia said. The survivors of Gabriel's wreckage. We look out for each other. A year after the non-wedding, Sofia was invited to speak at an event about self-worth and recognizing red flags in relationships. She almost declined. Talking about the most painful period of her life in front of strangers wasn't appealing, but Rachel convinced her to do it. Your story can help people, Rachel said, not just women who've been cheated on, but anyone who's faced betrayal and had to find the strength to walk away from something they thought they wanted. So, Sofia agreed. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, Sofia told her story. She talked about the anonymous text message, about finding the evidence, about the decision to wait until the wedding to expose the affair. People ask me why I waited, Sofia said. Why I didn't just call off the wedding quietly. The truth is, I wanted them to feel a fraction of the humiliation and pain they'd put me through. I wanted witnesses to their betrayal. Maybe that makes me petty or vindictive. But it also makes me human. The audience was silent, captivated. But here's what I learned, Sofia continued. The moment I said no at that altar wasn't about punishing them. It was about choosing myself. It was about deciding that my dignity, my self-respect, and my future were worth more than a wedding, more than a relationship built on lies, more than anything that required me to betray my own worth. I also learned that betrayal doesn't define you. How you respond to it does. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it transform you into someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I chose transformation. The applause when she finished was deafening. Afterward, dozens of people came up to her with their own stories of betrayal, of finding strength, of saying no when everyone expected them to say yes. One woman, probably in her 60s, clasped Sofia's hands and said, I wish I'd had your courage 50 years ago. I said yes when I should have said no, and I spent 30 years in a marriage that broke my spirit. But my granddaughter is dating someone who reminds me of your Gabriel. I'm going to tell her your story. Sofia squeezed the woman's hands. I hope she listens, but if she doesn't, remind her that it's never too late to choose herself. As the event was ending, Sofia saw someone familiar in the crowd. It took her a moment to place the face, and when she did, her breath caught. It was Isabella. They stared at each other across the room. Isabella looked different, thinner, older, sadder. She made a move as if to approach, then stopped, seeming to think better of it. Instead, she just nodded once, a gesture that might have been respect or acknowledgement or apology. Then she turned and left. Sofia let her go. There was nothing to say anymore. 2 years after the non-wedding, Sofia married Marcus in a small, intimate ceremony with just their closest friends and family. Rachel was her maid of honor. As Sofia stood at the altar, saying her vows for real this time, she thought about how different everything was from that day 2 years ago. This time, there were no doubts, no secrets, no betrayals lurking beneath the surface. Just two people who loved each other, chose each other freely, and built their relationship on honesty and trust. When the officiant asked if she took Marcus to be her husband, Sofia smiled through happy tears and said, "I do," and meant it with every fiber of her being. The reception was joyful and relaxed. No elaborate productions, no stress about impressing hundreds of guests. Just good food, music, laughter, and love. During the dancing, Marcus pulled Sofia close and whispered, "Are you happy?" "Incredibly," she whispered back. "This is what it's supposed to feel like, isn't it? Easy, right, real." "Yes," he said, kissing her forehead. "This is what real love looks like." Later that evening, as Sofia was touching up her makeup in the restroom, Rachel joined her. They looked at each other in the mirror, and Rachel smiled. "You did it," Rachel said. "You not only survived, you thrived." "We both did," Sofia said. "Neither of us let what happened to us define our futures." "Do you ever wonder about them?" Rachel asked. "Gabriel and Isabella?" Sofia considered the question. "Sometimes, but not in the way I used to. I don't wonder if they're happy, or if they ended up together, or if they regret what they did. I wonder if they ever learned anything from it, if they became better people. I hope they did, not for my sake, but for whoever comes after." "That's generous of you." "It's not generous, it's just letting go, completely." Sofia turned from the mirror to face Rachel directly. "They took enough from me. I won't give them any more of my energy, even in anger or bitterness." 3 years after the non-wedding, Sofia received an unexpected email. The subject line read, "I owe you an explanation." It was from Isabella. Sofia stared at the email for a long time before opening it. Part of her wanted to delete it without reading, but another part, the part that had worked hard in therapy to process everything, was curious. She opened it. "Dear Sofia," the email began, "I don't expect you to read this, and I definitely don't expect you to respond. I don't deserve either, but I need to say these things, even if only into the void. I've spent the last 3 years in intensive therapy trying to understand why I did what I did to you. My therapist says I'm a people pleaser with deep-seated insecurity and a pathological need for validation. She says that taking something that belonged to someone else, especially someone I cared about, made me feel powerful in a way nothing else did. She says it was never really about Gabriel at all. It was about proving to myself that I could have anything I wanted, even things I shouldn't want. None of that excuses what I did. Nothing excuses it. I betrayed you in the worst possible way. I watched you plan a wedding to a man I was sleeping with. I stood beside you as your maid of honor and smiled while destroying your life behind your back. I'm deeply, permanently ashamed of who I was during that time. Gabriel and I didn't last, if you're curious. We broke up about 6 weeks after your wedding day. Turns out when the thrill of sneaking around was gone, there was nothing real underneath. He moved on quickly. I heard he got married last year to someone new. I hope he's different with her, but I doubt it. People like Gabriel don't change unless they do serious work on themselves, and I don't think he's the type. As for me, I've been alone since then. I've dated occasionally, but I can't seem to sustain anything. My therapist says I'm still working through my guilt and learning to be a person worthy of real love. It's slow going. I saw you speak at that event a year ago. I almost came up to you afterward but lost my nerve. Hearing you talk about transformation and choosing yourself, it gutted me. Not because you were cruel or vindictive, but because you were so clearly healed and strong and whole. You became everything I wish I could be. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness. I know I'll never have that, and I don't deserve it. I'm writing because I want you to know that your strength changed my life. Watching you walk away from that altar, exposing us in front of everyone, it was the wake-up call I desperately needed. If you'd quietly called off the wedding and disappeared, I would have convinced myself it wasn't that bad. that I could move on without consequences. But you made sure there were consequences. You made sure I had to face what I'd done. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through, but it was also necessary. I'm a better person now than I was then. I'm honest now, sometimes brutally so. I volunteer at a women's shelter, helping survivors of betrayal and abuse. I'm working to be someone who builds people up instead of tearing them down. I know this doesn't fix anything. I know I can never undo the pain I caused, but I wanted you to know that your courage mattered. It mattered to me, and it matters to the women I work with now who hear your story and find strength in it. I hope you're happy, Sofia. I hope you found someone who deserves you, and I hope that someday, when you think about me, if you think about me at all, you can feel peace instead of pain. I'm sorry. I'll be sorry for the rest of my life. Isabella. Sofia read the email twice. She felt an unexpected surge of emotion, not anger or bitterness, but something closer to sadness mixed with relief. Isabella was taking responsibility. Isabella was doing the work. That was more than Sofia had expected or hoped for. She showed the email to Marcus, who read it carefully and then looked at his wife. "How do you feel?" "I don't know," Sofia admitted. "It's strange. For years I've carried this image of Isabella as a villain, as someone irredeemably selfish and cruel. But this email, she sounds broken, human, like she genuinely regrets what she did. Does that change anything for you?" Sofia thought about it. It doesn't change what happened. It doesn't make the betrayal hurt less, or mean I want her back in my life, but it does mean something, that she's trying to be better, that she's helping other women instead of continuing to hurt people. "Are you going to respond?" Sofia considered it for a long moment. Then she opened her laptop and typed, "Isabella, I received your email. I appreciate you taking responsibility and doing the work to become a better person. That takes courage. You're right that I can't forgive you, at least not in the way that would restore our friendship or make things okay between us. Some betrayals are too deep for that. But I can acknowledge that you're trying to grow and change, and I can wish you well in that journey. I'm happy now, truly, genuinely happy. I married someone wonderful who treats me with respect and honesty. I have a life I love and a career that fulfills me. Your betrayal doesn't define my story anymore. It's just a chapter that taught me important lessons about my own strength and worth." If you're working with women who've experienced betrayal, tell them this: the pain doesn't last forever. Neither does the anger. What lasts is the strength you discover in yourself when you choose your own dignity over what's comfortable or expected. That strength becomes part of who you are, and no one can take it away. I don't hate you, Isabella. I haven't for a long time. I hope you find peace with yourself. I hope you continue helping others, and I hope you learn to forgive yourself eventually, because carrying that guilt forever won't serve anyone. Take care, Sofia. She sent the email and closed her laptop. Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You're an incredible person," he said. "Do you know that?" "I'm a person who learned some really hard lessons," Sofia said. "But yeah, I think I finally believe that I'm pretty incredible too." 4 years after the non-wedding, Sofia got a phone call that she didn't expect. It was from Gabriel. "Sofia, please don't hang up," he said quickly when she answered. "I know I have no right to call you, but I need to talk to you. It's important." Sofia's first instinct was to hang up immediately, but something in his voice, a quality she couldn't quite identify, made her pause. "You have 5 minutes." "Thank you." He took a breath. "I'm in therapy, real therapy, with a therapist who specializes in infidelity and destructive patterns. I've been going 3 times a week for the past year." "Congratulations," Sofia said flatly. "What does this have to do with me?" "Part of my therapy is making amends to people I've hurt, not to get forgiveness, but to take responsibility and acknowledge the harm I caused. You're the person I hurt most." His voice cracked. "Sofia, I destroyed you. I destroyed us. And I need you to know that I understand that now in a way I didn't before. You're 4 years too late with this realization, Gabriel. I know. I know I am. But I need to say it anyway." He was quiet for a moment. "I've spent so much time trying to understand why I did what I did, why I couldn't just be happy with you, why I needed the affairs, the lying, the drama. And what did you figure out?" Despite herself, Sofia was curious. That I was terrified of real intimacy, real commitment. Every time a relationship got serious, every time someone got close enough to really see me, I sabotaged it. I created exits. The affairs were never about the other women. They were about maintaining emotional distance so I'd never be vulnerable. He laughed bitterly. "My therapist says I have an avoidant attachment style rooted in childhood trauma. Basically, I'm a mess who didn't deserve you." "You're right. You didn't." "I know. And I'm sorry, Sofia. I'm so deeply sorry for what I put you through. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. You deserved honesty and faithfulness and real love. And instead, I gave you lies and betrayal and humiliation." Sofia was surprised to find that she felt almost nothing hearing his apology. No anger, no satisfaction, no vindication. Just a mild sense of closure. "I appreciate you saying that, Gabriel. I do. But it doesn't change anything." "I know it doesn't. I don't expect it to. I just needed you to hear that I take full responsibility. You weren't crazy or paranoid or any of the things I tried to make you feel when you discovered the truth. You were right about everything, and the way you handled it, calling me out at the wedding, you were right to do that too. I deserved it." "I didn't do it because you deserved it," Sofia said. "I did it because I deserved better. There's a difference." "You're right, and I hope you found better. I hope you're happy now." "Adi." "I am," Sofia said simply. "I'm married to an incredible man who treats me the way I should have been treated all along. I have a life I love. Your betrayal was painful, but it led me to something real." "I'm glad," Gabriel said, and he sounded like he meant it. "You deserved that happiness." "Gabriel, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did you go through with the engagement? Why plan a wedding if you knew you were going to keep cheating?" He was quiet for a long time. "Because I thought marriage would fix me. I thought making that ultimate commitment would force me to settle down, to stop sabotaging. I genuinely believed that once we were married, I'd change. I know now how stupid that was. You can't fix internal problems with external solutions, but at the time, I really thought the wedding would be a turning point." "That's not fair, Gabriel. You made me part of your self-improvement plan without telling me. You put all that pressure on our relationship to solve your problems. I know, it was incredibly selfish. You weren't a partner to me. You were a solution, and that's not love. That's not what you deserved." Sofia sighed. "I hope your therapy is helping you. I hope you're becoming the person you should have been all along. But Gabriel, you need to know something." "What?" "If you get married again, if you build another relationship, you need to do the work first. Don't make someone else responsible for fixing you. Don't put another woman through what you put me through, because there might not be a dramatic altar scene next time. There might just be years of quiet suffering while someone slowly loses themselves trying to make you whole." "I won't," he said quietly. "I promise you I won't. I'm not dating anyone right now. I won't until I'm healthy enough to be a real partner to someone." "Good." Sofia paused. "Gabriel, I forgive you." She heard him inhale sharply. "You... what?" "I forgive you, not because you deserve it or because what you did was okay, but because holding on to anger and resentment was taking up space in my heart that I needed for better things. So I'm letting it go. I'm forgiving you and moving on completely." "Thank you," he whispered, and she could hear that he was crying. "Thank you, Sofia. Take care of yourself, Gabriel. Get healthy. Be better. You too. I mean, you already are, but be happy. I am, Sofia said. Goodbye, Gabriel. Goodbye. She hung up and sat quietly for a moment, processing the conversation. Marcus found her there a few minutes later, staring out the window. You okay? He asked. Yeah, she said. That was Gabriel. He apologized. Marcus raised his eyebrows. How do you feel about that? Relieved, actually. Not because I needed his apology, but because it confirms something I've believed for a while now. What's that? That people can change. That even someone who hurt me as badly as he did can recognize their mistakes and work to become better. It gives me hope for humanity, you know? Marcus smiled and kissed her forehead. You have the most generous heart of anyone I know. I don't know about generous, but I know about growth. I know that I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago when I stood at that altar. I'm stronger, wiser, more confident. If I can change that much, then anyone can. 5 years after the non-wedding, Sofia published a book. It was part memoir, part self-help guide, titled The Bride Who Said No, Finding Strength in the Worst Moment of Your Life. It told her story in full, with names changed to protect privacy, and included practical advice for people dealing with betrayal, heartbreak, and the challenge of choosing themselves over what's expected. The book became an unexpected bestseller. Sofia was invited to speak on podcasts, at conferences, at women's groups. Her story resonated with thousands of people who had faced their own moments of difficult choice, whether to stay or go, whether to accept betrayal or demand better, whether to play it safe or risk everything for their own dignity. One event in particular stood out. Sofia was speaking at a large women's conference, and during the Q&A session, a young woman in her 20s stood up. My wedding is in 3 weeks, the woman said, her voice shaking. I just found out my fiancé has been cheating on me. Everyone tells me I should forgive him, that all men make mistakes, that I'll never find anyone better. Part of me wants to believe them. But part of me keeps thinking about your story, about you saying no. How did you know? How did you know that walking away was right? Sofia looked at the young woman and saw herself 5 years ago, scared, hurt, confused and desperate for someone to tell her what to do. I knew because I asked myself one question, Sofia said. If my best friend told me this story, if she told me her fiancé cheated and everyone was pressuring her to forgive him and go through with the wedding, what would I tell her to do? The young woman blinked back tears. The answer was immediate and obvious, Sofia continued. I would tell her to run. I would tell her she deserved better. I would tell her that forgiving infidelity is sometimes possible in long-term marriages with years of history and children involved. But forgiving it before the marriage even starts is just signing up for a lifetime of disrespect. But everyone says... I know what everyone says, Sofia interrupted gently. Everyone said the same things to me, that I was overreacting. That cold feet was normal, that all relationships have rough patches, but here's what I learned. Everyone else doesn't have to live your life. Everyone else won't be there at 2 a.m. when you're lying awake wondering if he's cheating again. Everyone else won't feel the slow erosion of your self-worth every time you accept treatment you don't deserve. The young woman was openly crying now. I'm so scared. I know. I was terrified too. But I can tell you that 5 years later I'm glad I was scared and did it anyway. I'm glad I chose myself, because on the other side of that fear was a life better than anything I could have imagined, with someone who didn't value me. What if I never find anyone else? Then you'll have yourself, Sofia said firmly. And you are enough. A relationship should add to your life, not be the only thing that gives your life meaning. If you never find another partner, which is unlikely, by the way, you'll still have your dignity, your self-respect, and the knowledge that you didn't settle for less than you deserved. The young woman nodded slowly. Thank you. I think I know what I need to do. After the event, the young woman approached Sofia privately. I'm calling it off, she said. I'm scared, but I'm calling off the wedding. Good for you, Sofia said, and hugged her tightly. It's going to be hard. There will be days when you doubt your decision, but trust yourself. You know the truth of your situation better than anyone else. 6 months later, Sofia received a letter from that same young woman. She'd called off the wedding, endured judgment and pushback from family and friends, gone through a painful period of grief and adjustment. But now she was thriving. She'd gone back to school, started a new career, and was dating someone new who treated her with respect. Thank you for giving me permission to choose myself, the letter concluded. Your story saved my life. Sofia added the letter to a growing collection of similar messages from people whose lives had been impacted by her story. Each one was a reminder that her pain hadn't been meaningless. It had become something that helped others. 7 years after the non-wedding, Sofia and Marcus had their first child, a daughter they named Hope. As Sofia held her newborn baby, she thought about everything that had led to this moment. If she had married Gabriel, this child wouldn't exist. Marcus wouldn't be in her life. She would be trapped in a marriage built on lies, probably divorced by now, or else miserably enduring continued betrayals. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, watching her with their daughter. "I'm thinking about how everything happens for a reason," Sofia said. "Not in some cosmic, predetermined way, but in the sense that every choice we make leads us to the next moment. If I hadn't said no that day, I wouldn't have this. You, her, this life. Do you ever regret it? The drama of how it happened?" Sofia considered the question. "Sometimes I wish I'd handled it more privately, for the sake of my parents and the guests who felt uncomfortable. But no, I don't regret the core of it. I needed to make a statement. To them, to myself, to everyone. I needed to prove that I could stand up for myself in the hardest moment possible." "You're going to teach our daughter to stand up for herself too," Marcus said. "Damn right I am," Sofia said, smiling down at Hope. "I'm going to teach her that her worth isn't determined by whether someone chooses her. I'm going to teach her that walking away from what hurts her is strength, not weakness. And I'm going to teach her that saying no is sometimes the most powerful thing she can do." 10 years after the non-wedding, Sofia received one final unexpected contact. It was a wedding invitation. She opened it curiously and felt her heart skip when she read the names. Isabella Rodriguez and Jennifer Chen. Isabella was getting married to a woman. There was a handwritten note tucked inside the invitation. "Sofia, I don't expect you to come, and I'll understand if you throw this away without a second thought. But I wanted you to know that I'm getting married, and that I'm marrying the right person for the right reasons this time. Meeting Jennifer changed my life. She's a therapist herself, and she helped me understand aspects of myself I'd been suppressing for years. Part of my destructive behavior with Gabriel and others was rooted in not accepting my own sexuality. I was trying to prove something to myself and to the world, and I hurt people in the process. I'm not making excuses. What I did to you was wrong, regardless of what I was going through internally. But I wanted you to understand that I've done the work. I've figured out who I am and what I want, and I'm building a life based on authenticity instead of performance. You changed my life, Sofia. Your courage inspired me to be honest with myself and others. I'll always be grateful for that, even though I know I don't deserve your gratitude in return. If you choose to come to the wedding, I would be honored. If you don't, I understand completely. Either way, I hope you're well, I hope you're happy, and I hope you know that the world is better because you chose yourself that day. With deep respect and gratitude, Isabella." Sofia showed the invitation to Marcus. "What do you think? "Do you want to go?" he asked. "I don't know. Part of me is curious, part of me thinks it would be closure, but part of me worries it would be opening old wounds." "What does your gut say?" Sofia thought about it for a long moment. Then she smiled. "My gut says that I've moved on enough that seeing her won't hurt me, and maybe, just maybe, it would be good for both of us to see that we both ended up okay." So Sofia RSVP'd yes, and 6 weeks later she and Marcus attended Isabella's wedding. It was a small ceremony in a garden, intimate and beautiful. When Isabella saw Sofia arrive, her eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. After the ceremony, they had a brief conversation. "Thank you for coming," Isabella said. "I honestly didn't think you would." "I almost didn't," Sofia admitted, "but I'm glad I did. You look happy, really happy." "I am," Isabella said, and Sofia could see it was true. "Jennifer is the best thing that ever happened to me. Being with her is effortless in a way nothing else ever has been." "That's how it should feel," Sofia said. "That's how it feels with Marcus, too." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Isabella said, "I saw you have a daughter now, from your social media." "Hope? She's 3. "That's a powerful name." "It felt appropriate," Sofia said. "She represents everything good that came from making hard choices. I'm so glad you're happy, Sofia. You deserve all of it." "So do you," Sofia said, and meant it. "I hope this marriage is everything you want it to be." "It will be," Isabella said with quiet confidence. "Because I'm finally being my authentic self. No more games, no more trying to be someone I'm not." As Sofia and Marcus drove home that evening, Marcus asked, "How do you feel?" "Peaceful," Sofia said. "Genuinely peaceful. I think that was the closure I needed, seeing that she's actually changed, that she's building something real and honest. It confirms what I've believed all along." "What's that?" "That people are capable of growth, that mistakes don't have to define us forever, that we can all choose to become better versions of ourselves." Sofia smiled. Gabriel called her with his apology. Isabella found authentic love, and I built a life I love with someone who cherishes me. In our own ways, we all healed and moved forward. "That's a beautiful way to see it," Marcus said, taking her hand. "It's the only way to see it," Sofia replied. "Holding on to bitterness would have poisoned my life. Letting go allowed me to bloom." Now, 12 years after the non-wedding, Sofia sometimes thinks back on that day at the altar. The moment when she said no, the gasps from the crowd, the look on Gabriel's face, Isabella's tears, the weight of her wedding dress as she walked back down the aisle toward an unknown future. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. It was also the best thing she'd ever done. Because that no led to a yes that meant everything. Yes to self-respect, yes to dignity, yes to demanding better. And eventually, yes to Marcus, yes to hope, yes to a life built on honesty and love. Sofia teaches her daughter about that day in age-appropriate ways. "Mommy almost married the wrong person," she tells Hope. "But I was brave enough to change my mind, even when it was scary." "Were you very scared?" Hope asks. "Terrified," Sofia admits. "But being scared doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing. Sometimes the right thing is the scariest thing." "How did you know it was right?" "Because deep down I knew I deserved better, and so do you, sweetheart. Never forget that. You deserve people who treat you with kindness and respect, and if someone doesn't do that, you have permission to walk away, no matter how hard it is." Hope nods seriously, absorbing this lesson that Sofia wishes she'd learned much earlier in life. The bride who said no became the woman who said yes to herself, to her future, to her worth. And in doing so, she discovered that the fairy tale she'd been chasing was never about a perfect wedding or a perfect partner. It was about becoming someone strong enough to choose herself, brave enough to walk away from what hurt her, and wise enough to recognize real love when it finally arrived. That's the story Sofia tells, not just to her daughter, but to anyone who will listen. Because everyone deserves to know that saying no to the wrong thing is how you make room for the right thing. That betrayal, while devastating, can be the catalyst for transformation, and that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. The wedding that never happened was the beginning of everything that mattered, and Sofia wouldn't change a single moment of it, because every painful step led her exactly where she was meant to be. Thanks for watching this incredible story. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Here at Heartfelt Storytime, you have new beautiful stories every day. Don't miss out. See you next time.